and then negotiations were ongoing. Then so this member of parliament had been killed. So I think the people could not hold it anymore. They poured into the roads to protest. So this case has also brought problems to me. I received the first warning letter because I had a clean record of service. Actually, I had maintained a clean record of service, and that was during that time I had worked for about 21 years.
He carried the badge with dignity and served with unwavering commitment. Yet, behind each crisp salute, a quiet storm was growing within him.
Because I was a soldier, I still remain a soldier. Even if I die today, people will say, this was a soldier. This was a brave soldier.
From a junior rank to high command, every promotion and every step forward was earned through years of tireless dedication and personal sacrifice. These weren't just photographs, they were moments stitched together from a life of service. A life that rose with honor through the ranks, only to have everything taken away.
As the days proceeded, there were people who were killed. Some of them, even one of them came from my village, who was a headmaster of a primary school. He was actually murdered because this is the community which was targeted.
Now, he speaks not just as someone who wore the uniform, but as a man who once had a home, a family, a world beyond the badge.
So I'm appealing to him as my president to hear my cry and help me get justice, so that I can also rebuild and reconstruct my intentionally destroyed destiny.
Long before the titles and medals, he was a young boy growing up in the countryside of Kenya, one of 11 children, molded by structure and shaped by responsibility.
My name's James Henry Nyabuto. I was born in rural Kenya, at a place called Nyaribari Church constituency in Kisii County. And I started my education in the 70s. And at the end of the primary course, I did my primary level examination and passed. And then from there, I joined the secondary school as usual. And then after my fourth form, I did my Kenya Certificate of Education examination. And then I passed. But unfortunately, because I was coming from a very humble background, I was not able to proceed for further studies to Form 5 and 6, as it used to happen during those years. So because of my background, I decided that I had to look for at least something that could sustain me and help my younger siblings, being the eldest son in a family of 11. So I tried my hand in the recruitment of the Kenya Police, the National Police Service, and then I was fortunate to join, but in this particular case, I joined the GSU. Then I went through my initial recruit training course as usual with the rest of the recruits, which was sometime in 1986 when I joined on 1st April. And then after six months of growing training between GSU training school in Embakasi and the Magadi Field Training Center, we finally graduated. And then after our graduation, we were posted to the field, and my first posting was in Coast Province, and more specifically in Mombasa County. I was stationed at the State House, Mombasa, where I worked for a year. And then because in the GSU there is a tradition that once you work in an area as a company for about a year, you do what they call as a changeover. So we moved from there, went to Naivasha. And then from there we went to Transmara. And then from there I also worked in somewhere in Kuria. From there we went to Busia, the police station called Adungos Police Station, where I was stationed. And then from there we went to Endebess. Mainly the work we were doing here was operational. And in most cases we were pursuing cattle rustlers and those bandits who were known to be stealing people's cows in those places. So after some time I was transferred to GSU headquarters, where I worked until sometime in 1997, when I went to for a conversion course. And then after my mom passed in 1995, so after 2 years, I found it very difficult to operate because I was mostly working in the field and then to the GSU headquarters. So after 10 years, because I'd spent 10 years in the GSU, so I went for a conversion course, went to regular police of the National Police Service.
When he lost his mother, he didn't pursue higher positions. Instead, he made a different choice. He changed course, choosing to stay close to his younger siblings and care for them when they needed him the most. Because before he ever led a team, he led at home as an older brother, and that made all the difference.
I was posted to Kisumu. I worked in Migori, those places, and later I worked in Kisii. And then from there, during this period, I had done interviews. These are promotional interviews which I did, and then because I had passed my all police exams, I was considered for a corporal promotion course, which I did in 2000. Yeah, in 2000 I was in Kiganjo for the BC, they call this police constable to corporal course, which I successfully completed, and then I was made up to a police corporal. I didn't work in this rank or position for long. And then in 2004, 2003, I had again attended those interviews, and then I was recommended to go for, they call it SWIP or Senior Officers Inspectorate course, which I again went to Kiganjo. And then after that I was made up to an inspector of police. Because I had completed my police exams, after that probation period of 6 months, I was confirmed in my appointment as a substantive inspector of police. Later on, I attended several courses. One of them was an A course, which is an investigations course, which made me to become an OC crime, or the officer in charge crime investigations in that particular station. So later on, I was selected. I was one of the people who were selected to attend another course for prosecutions. This was a mandatory course for people who were to become police prosecutors. I attended this course at the CID training school, which is somewhere in Nairobi in South Sea. And after successfully completing this course, I went back to my mother station, continued with my normal duties of crime branch, and then later on, I was appointed as a county prosecutor, and I was posted to Kitui County. And particularly, I was to prosecute cases in Mutomo Law Courts, which is far flung from Kitui town, next to Savo East National Park. That's where Mutomo is. So that court was operating only on Fridays. So upon reporting to Kitui, I met my would-be immediate supervisor, who was the DCIO, is an equivalent of the current CCIO. So this guy is a guy I had worked with previously in another station when I was the crime branch officer, and he was the DCIO of that district. Then they were being called districts. So when I met him, even though we had differed on principle, on matters of work, we didn't differ personally or in person, but we differed on principle, precisely on matters of our duties. So he welcomed me, and then he told me that I saw I saw the communication from CID headquarters, confirming that you are the one who have been sent to this station to go and take the court business of Mutomoro courts. But unfortunately, he told me that you are not going to proceed direct to Mutomo, but you would be working in Kitui from Monday to Thursday, because there was a shortage of one court prosecutor in Kitui. We had 4 courts which were running, and Kitui being a senior resident magistrate's court, we had 4 courts. So we were four court prosecutors in total, including the OC prosecution. So the OC prosecution was basically doing work in court 1, and then I was doing, because I came last, I was given court number 4, where I was prosecuting. And then yes, we continued with our work. But later on, while I was doing this work, going to Mutomo, prosecuting in Kitui, any problem that I had. So in 2008, actually before 2008, in 2007, towards the end of 2007, this guy, or my immediate supervisor, as I can call him, called me to his office and informed me that where I was previously as the OC crime, there was a summons that had come from that station requiring me to attend the court in that county, so that I could give evidence on a case that I had been involved in. So I prepared myself. I went. The case was to take the 2 last days of the week. That is on Thursday and a Friday. So it coincided together with the weekend, which was I found it like a long weekend. So I went to that station. I appeared before court. I adduced my evidence as usual. And then after that, on Friday afternoon, after finishing the court business, I decided to go home, spend a day, and then I started traveling back to Kitui again, which was a Saturday. So on a Saturday, I was at home. I was just there with my kids. And then on Sunday morning, I woke up very early in the morning, prepared myself, and picked a bus back to Nairobi, to Kitui, actually via Nairobi. Because going to Kitui, you must pass through Nairobi, and then you connect with another public service vehicle, and then you travel back to Kitui. So when I reached somewhere in between, the bus that I was traveling in broke down. When this bus broke down with all the passengers, and it was in the middle of nowhere, along the route. So we had to wait for these people to be fixed before we could start off our journey back to Nairobi. It took time because the mechanic and the spare that was required had to come all the way from Nairobi. So we waited there until around 4 p.m. when the vehicle was fixed. So after the vehicle got fixed, we set off again from that bushy area in the middle of nowhere along the main road, and then we started off the journey. By the time we arrived in Nairobi, it was past 6 p.m. So I went to the booking offices of these shuttles that ply between Nairobi and Kitui. Unfortunately, I was informed that I could not get a shuttle to Kitui because all of them had closed. Because normally they don't travel at night. They used not to travel at night. I don't know now whether they do it, but during that period of 2008, they were not operating at night. So I called my supervisor, who was the OC prosecutions, the one who was in charge of us in court now, and informed her that it is not going to be possible for me to be in Kitui exactly at 9 a.m. the following morning. Because for you to travel from Nairobi to Kitui, it takes about 3 hours. And maybe you leave 6. So before you reach Kitui, the court would have started. So I requested her to appear before my court, plead with the magistrate, and tell him that I was on the way coming so that maybe he could postpone maybe to afternoon when we would start now the sessions of the cases. So I looked for an accommodation in Nairobi, and then I spent the night in Nairobi. The following morning I woke up at 5, around 6. I was at the bus stop or the booking office for those shuttles to Kitui. Then we had to wait for passengers to come. This is a public service vehicle and it cannot leave the booking office or the stage before it had gotten full capacity. So I had to wait. Actually, we left Nairobi at around 6:45 to 7 a.m. So after that we set off our journey, and I arrived in Kitui at 9:30 a.m. So upon arrival, I didn't go even to my house. I was in my civilian attire, so I decided to go to court direct so that I could speak to the magistrate in his chambers. So I went there, I found him in his chamber, and the first question he asked me, "Where have you been?" I told him I had traveled as I told you, so it was not possible for me to come yesterday. I spent the night in Nairobi, and it's now I've come, and here I am. So he told me, I was not told by anybody. You didn't even call me. You didn't tell me you will not be available. So all the cases, because some of the cases were represented in court by defense lawyers. So he told me that I didn't have any option because there was no prosecutor. I had to dismiss them. So all the cases listed on the cause list for that day were dismissed, which were 6 cases. So these cases also brought problems to me. And then finally I was punished, and including my court supervisor, who was the OC prosecutions, she was also punished. So after that, I continued I received the first warning letter because I had a clean record of service. Actually, I had maintained a clean record of service, and that was during that time I had worked for about 21 years old in the service with a clean record of service. So I said, okay, it has happened. This is now water under the bridge. I have to pick up my pieces and then I continue. So I continued in my work. And then when it came now to...
Then came the elections, and chaos swept across the nation. Eastern Kenya, where he was deployed, was hit the hardest. He worked around the clock, putting his life on the line to protect ordinary citizens. By the time February arrived, all he longed for was to return home and embrace his children. Exhausted, he requested a few days of leave, just a moment to breathe. But the answer never came. His request was stalled, rejected, then ignored altogether. And just when he thought things couldn't get worse, an officer pulled him aside with news that shattered everything.
At the end of that year, there was the elections in Kenya. In 2007, there was elections which were held in the month of December. So after the elections, violence broke out because some parties to the elections had disputed the presidential results. So after that dispute, violence spontaneously broke out, more especially in Nyanza places, Rift Valley and Nairobi and some parts of Coast Province. But in Eastern Province, there were no violence. Where my station was, there were no violence. There was no violence that had broken out. That was in December and January, the month of December and January. Actually, the results were announced, I think, around 28th December, and then a few days to January. So that violence also spilled over to the other year, which was 2008. So there was now the eminent personalities from the East African region had come over to Nairobi to try and resolve the dispute, including Kofi Annan, who was the United Nations Secretary General then, and is deceased. May God rest his soul in eternal peace. He was also here, and some negotiations were going on somewhere in Nairobi. And as you can recall, there were no violence in my station area. So we continued with work as usual. And then at around in February, during that period, there was the negotiations as they were continuing in Nairobi. The government announced that because now peace has started, has been restored in the country, and there were no violence ongoing during that month of January and February because of the negotiations to resolve the dispute. So the government had announced that school-going children should be allowed and released to go back to school. So I had my two children, actually the eldest, a girl and a boy. They were in Form 2. Both of them were in Form 2, but in different schools. So, and because I was the only parent, remember, their mother had died in a road accident in 2002 when they were very young. So, I had to go personally so that I could take them back to school. And my immediate supervisor, who was the CIO, had given standing orders to the effect that if you want permission to go anywhere, you must give a notice of 2 weeks, because he had a shortage. According to him, he had a shortage of prosecutors. So, as usual, I did the same. I complied. And then I was asked to wait. So I waited. When the time for traveling to the village came, after the 2 weeks notice, so I went to him. I actually passed through my court supervisor, and I informed her that, you see, I requested for permission. Can you inform the boss that I'm now ready to proceed? Because I wanted to proceed the following weekend, which was on 12th February 2008. That was the time I was to travel, because the kids were required in school the following Monday. So I went to him. I had requested for 4 days. So the 4 days that I was given, actually he didn't give me the 4 days. He told me that you are not proceeding on that off duty. So somehow, as a human being, and considering I was a single parent, I decided to go to the next office, because according to the police rules and regulations, there is that channel of communication. So because he had refused to give me, I didn't argue with him. I just went silently. I went honorably to the next office, which was the office of the deputy OCPD, who was the officer commanding division or district. So I went to his office. I shared my predicament with him. And then after listening to me, he felt that I ought to have been given permission, because he didn't see the reason why this guy was refusing to give me permission. This was in spite of all the frustrations that I had gone through in the hands of this so-called immediate supervisor. So the deputy OCPD, in consultation with his boss, who was now the OCPD, the substantive OCPD of that district, the overall boss of that district or of that county, granted me the 4 days permission. That was including Saturday and Sunday. So I was supposed to have traveled back to station on the following Wednesday, because on Monday I was to spend at home preparing the kids, and then on Tuesday, according to his instructions, I was supposed now to take, because this was the day the pupils or the students were required now to report to school. So I agreed and accepted, because he told me on Tuesday you take them to school, then on Wednesday you travel back to Kitui. On Thursday you report on duty as usual. So I complied. I left his office, went to my house, I prepared. And then the following morning, because as I said, there were no vehicles flying between Kitui and Nairobi at night. So that is the reason why I did not travel at night. Otherwise, if there would have been transport from that end to Nairobi, then I would have traveled at night. So I went to my house, prepared myself overnight, and then the following morning at around 5, I left my house, went to the booking office for the shuttles, the 14-seater shuttles, And then he picked one, and then set off our journey to Nairobi. I arrived in Nairobi at around 10 a.m. and then at around noon, I picked another shuttle from Nairobi Central Business District, traveling to my home village in Kisii County. So, unfortunately, as we were proceeding on our journey now to the village, midway, somewhere before Narok, I was actually seated in front at the near side of the driver. There was another lady who was seated in the middle. So I was seated just at the near side. So the driver received a call. Why are you driving? And then he slowed down, he stopped somewhere, and then when he finished talking on the phone, he told us that he has received information to the effect that he should not leave Narok town without police escort, because some people from the local community were on the road between Narok and Sotik demonstrating, and they had lit bonfires along that route. So because we didn't have the power, we told him, okay, let's reach Narok first so that we could decide what to do. So we reached Narok, and then he parked the vehicle at a police station, at a petrol station, or at a gas station. So we waited there. In fact, as we waited, because the petrol station was next to the highway, we could see buses and other vehicles coming whose windows were completely shattered, and some people were crying inside the vehicles because some of them had received serious injuries. So personally, I informed the driver that we could not proceed. It is better that we go to the police station and seek for assistance. So, however, we didn't go. We waited there as many vehicles assembled. So at around 6 p.m., the senior officers of that county had organized for police escort beyond, or along and beyond the affected areas where there were those skirmishes. And this was the first day actually of the second phase of the post-election violence, which was caused by, or as a result of another traffic policeman had shot a member of parliament from the local community where the skirmishes had erupted dead. So when this member of parliament was shot dead by an officer, and you see there were disputes, the presidential dispute, and then negotiations were ongoing. Then so this member of parliament had been killed. So I think the people could not hold it anymore. They poured into the roads to protest. So as the police came, we also joined the queue of actually more than, I would estimate more than 200 vehicles, because you could see along the way that that chain of vehicles following each other. You were only seeing as they meander towards the corners. So we were escorted. Then when we arrived at the epicenter of the skirmishes, it was chaotic because stones and all manner of crude weapons were coming from all directions. We were even forced to cling and hold on to the curtains of the shuttles. The vehicles that had, there were vehicles which had some curtains from the inside. So we would cling because they were smashing the window grasses and even the wind screens. So and you see, this was now falling into night time. Because we started at 6. By the time we got into the epicenter of the chaos, all of the skirmishes, it was around 7 p.m. So we could not proceed. We ended up spending our night at a police station yard under heavy police presence and protection. The following morning, we spent the whole night, and then the following morning, we were now handed over to the local police contingent, which escorted us now beyond the skirmishes area where people are rioting. And then as we left this area, we were now allowed to proceed home. So I reached my home after 24 hours on the way, because I left Kitui in the morning, and I was now arriving the following day in the evening around 5:30. So the following week, I prepared the kids as discussed, but during this period I had called my deputy OSPD, who had granted me this permission. I called my court supervisor and informed her that this is what I am going through, this is what I'm undergoing, and I have not reached home. So as I was at home, I continued monitoring the situation. The situation became worse after, I think, 3 days, and then the public service vehicles or pass operators had to withdraw completely their vehicles from the road, because nobody was ready to lose his property, including even loss of lives, because many people who were caught unawares, as days proceeded, there were people who were killed. Some of them, even one of them came from my village, who was a headmaster of a primary school. He was actually murdered because this is the community which was targeted. Because the dispute now of the officer who murdered a member of parliament and another police woman in Eldoret came from this community. This man came from my community. We shared the community. So I think that is why the people of my community were targeted. So I could not travel back and jeopardize my life at the expense of my job. I had to wait until when normalcy returned on the roads, so that I could also travel. And all this time I kept my people, or my supervisors, my senior officers, in the know of what was happening every step of the way, because actually even my home is along the way, so you could see there are no vehicles coming to Nairobi beyond the boundary of Kisii County, where my home is. So finally, I actually ended up spending 14 days at home, including the 4 days granted off, because that disturbance along that route went for more than a week. So it was about 2 weeks actually. It was about 2 weeks. So by the time normalcy was restored, I traveled back to Kitui, and upon reaching Kitui, nobody actually asked me about this, because I was also aware that I had informed them, and I knew that they were very much aware of what I was going through, and I could not travel because of those good reasons of safety to my life. So, unfortunately, I worked for 1 week. After 1 week, which was around what is the end of, I think, February, yeah. What is the end of February, around the 20th and beyond. So this is the time I was called that I need to sign a notification for an impending disciplinary process, and which I objected. I vehemently objected, and this guy, I was informed that this guy waited for the 4 days to elapse. When the 4 days that I was granted elapsed, this guy sent, we called like a memo. In military terms, it is called a signal to the headquarters, the police headquarters, informing the commissioner that this guy disappeared, his whereabouts is unknown. So that disciplinary process I did not attend, because I wished this man could know what I had gone through. But here I was, between a rock and the hard place. I could not go anywhere, could not do anything. He could not change his mind. However much I tried, however much I attempted, he could not listen to me. So I decided to go to the person who granted me permission. So I realized that he had also chickened, because this time during that period, we have a senior, the commissioner of police. During that period, he was called Major General Hussein Ali. He had come from the KDF, he had come from the military, and this was a no-nonsense man. So I got information later that, you see, this guy cannot accept. And he told me that, me, I don't even know that this was done. That this guy had escalated this signal to police headquarters, reporting my absence from duty. So I could not do anything. I said I'm not going to participate in this process. So I told him, if it is a question of dismissing me, you can dismiss me, because you have frustrated me enough. I had an option of picking up arms and fight back. But I thought of my children, who were so young during that time. They were so young. My friends, these were so young kids. So when I told them, I restrained myself. And because I was a man of God, I got born again long time ago. So I could not take the law into my own hands, because I know the law of God. When I read the book of Exodus, chapter 20, it talks about the 10 Commandments. And one of the 10 Commandments states that you should not commit murder. And even the law of the land, the law of Kenya, which is heavily borrowed from the book of God, which are the laws of God, says that if you commit murder, you stand trial. So I did not want to spill anybody's blood, because these were creatures of the Most High God, I included. All of us are creatures, and before the eyes of God, all of us are equal. So that is what comforted me, and that is what has comforted me all through until today. As I speak to you, so many people have died. Some of them, they were my colleagues. They have died. So many people have died. But I am alive. It is not because that I'm good. It's not because that I'm so obedient to God. No. It is by the grace of God that I am alive. He did what he did to me. And then I wrote a protest letter. And then later on, he did what he did. He went and changed that letter and sent it to police headquarters. The rest is a story for another day. The rest is a story of another day. Why I did not kill anybody is a story of another day. Why I took the steps that I took, it is because of frustrations. It is because of that anger. I was so much irritated, even I could have taken my own life. But I thought about my family, I thought about my orphaned children who did not have a mother then. So, and in fact I forgave them. I forgave them from the bottom of my heart. I forgave them and said that, because the Bible tells me that God says that whatever we go through, we must not retaliate. We must not revenge. We should allow God to take action himself. And I think he took that action. That one I know, because from there, it's common knowledge to the police service what happened. Even though they have never listened to me, I've written so many letters. I have seen in my previous interview people commenting, saying that this is false. This is not false, my brothers and sisters. This is not false. This is real truth. This is, and if you can find a policeman, a Kenyan serving police officer, he would confirm to you that whatever I'm saying is happening. I know even of other guys in the service now who are undergoing serious troubles as a result of the attitude of their seniors. So, to close, as a human being, I also have challenges. I have struggled. My children, I would have been a very happy father, very happy parent if all my kids would have gone to university. As I had intended them to. Had it not been what I found myself in, I was expecting my kids, because I was an organized man. Yeah, I was an organized man, but I was destabilized. I was destabilized by jealousy-driven senior officers who pretended to be for me, to protect me, while they were doing the opposite. As we speak, I have other children who are younger than now, because I took another wife who has actually taken care of me. Even during this period, she has stood with me. She has never run away. She has never disappeared from my presence. She has been around me all the time, in spite of what I went through, in spite of losing this job that I loved. And I never expected that at any given time I would leave the police service. I knew that when that time comes, I will retire honorably like another officer and go back home to rest and enjoy life with my family. So this mama has stood with me. And the children I'm talking about, I have 3 who are young and who are still under my care. The other 4 are now grown-ups. They are also hustling, even though they are not doing, they don't have good jobs they are doing, but they are hustling. And God is seeing them through. But unfortunately, these young 3 girls, of the 3, one did her Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education, and she excelled. She did me proud, because in all the subjects, and more especially the science subjects that she had taken, she had A's, including even German itself. The German language, she had an A. All her certificate is actually full of A's. You cannot see any other letter apart from A. In all subjects, she had A's, and then she had a mini grade of A, just a straight A. I could not believe, but I said that God indeed rewards, God pays. So this girl was admitted to Egerton University, where she is as a first-year student, pursuing Bachelor of Arts in Medicine and Surgery. But I only have one challenge in her pursuit of excellence in her career. This course requires huge amount of money. Actually, in Kenya shillings, it should be to a tune of 620,000 Kenya shillings per year. And this is a 6-year course. And with my situation, I don't see if I would afford to ensure her continue with her career progression. What complicated matters more is the current government model. That's funding model, the new government funding model for all university students. She was grouped in band 4. You know, this is a model which has 5 bands. So there is band 1, there is band 2, there is band 3, there is band 4, there is then finally band 5. So my daughter was grouped in band 4. I don't know the criteria that was used to band these needy students, because in my situation now, I'm earning 0 because I don't have a job that I'm doing. I'm earning 0. And here they are. They have grouped her. They have banded her in band 4. So it means I'm also a rich person. When others are being placed in band 1, band 2, mine is placed in band 4. So I'm also appealing to the CS education in this country, in consultation with the Higher Education Loans Board, if they could review the case of my daughter, probably to Pandi too, I would have a very happy person. Of course, she has his government scholarship. It's a scholarship which takes a certain percentage. There is a loan which takes a certain percentage. And then the household has also a percentage to take care of. And it is that percentage that I am requesting if the CS could look into this issue and review it, so that her education, her academic pursuit, her academic progression is not jeopardized. Since we are at our sunset years, we are fading away. What about these children? What about these kids who are now coming up? And they are the future of our communities, they are the future of our country, they are the future of the world.
No one listened. Not his bosses, not the system, not even the very people he once risked his life to protect. His voice was met with silence. Every protest ignored, every plea dismissed. He turned to the police, then to the media, but the doors closed before he could speak. By 2008, the truth became unavoidable. This might never be resolved. Struggling to feed his children, he asked for just one thing: his certificate of service. Not money, not favors, just a document to help keep his children in school. But even that was denied. Why? Because of a forged letter, a fake document used to strip him of his dues, a lie crafted to erase 22 years of honest, dedicated service, a falsehood used to bury the truth. Now, with nowhere left to turn, he makes one final appeal to the highest office in the land, to the president, not for pity, not for special treatment, but for justice.
So I am appealing to His Excellency the President. During the time I was forcibly and constructively forced out of the service, he was a member of parliament for Eldoret North constituency in Uasin Gishu. And he was on one side of the disputants of that presidential election. He is very much aware. I'm also aware. He was on one side. And probably he can also remember vividly and very clearly that this is the violence that took him to The Hague. I don't want to remind him of what happened, but I am appealing to him now that he is head of state. He is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Republic of Kenya. And I am proudly saying that he is my commander-in-chief. Because I was a soldier, I still remain a soldier. Even if I die today, people will say, this was a soldier. This was a brave soldier. So I'm appealing to him as my president, as my commander-in-chief, to come to my rescue, to hear my cry, and help me get justice, so that I can also rebuild and reconstruct my intentionally destroyed destiny.
A man who served this country for 22 years, who rose through the ranks with discipline and honor, who stood by his conscience when it would have been easier to stay silent, now stands with nothing but hope and one last request.
To my beloved brothers and sisters in Kenya and the world at large, please All of us have challenges. We only survive because of the grace of God. So I am also appealing to you. If anybody has a way that can maybe lead me to get probably a scholarship, even in a foreign university, where my daughter can find at least some solace, if she gets that opportunity to pursue her academic excellence, to pursue her career, I would also be a proud father. And even if I cannot reach you, I know that through the prayers that I offer, my God, whom I serve, the only true God, the only Heavenly Father, who is the God of our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, will reward you more abundantly. May God bless you for listening to me.
If this story has touched you, don't let it fade away in silence. Like the video, leave a comment with your thoughts, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss stories like this. Share this story with others who need to hear it. And if you believe in truth and justice, consider joining our YouTube membership to support the telling of more untold stories. Because no one who gives their life to serve this nation should be left to suffer in the shadows. Let's make sure his voice is finally heard. Until next time.